Today we're going to discuss the Baldrige Quality Award Project. All right. So leadership develops daily, not within a day. That's a quote by John Maxwell, and it really sets the stage for what the Baldrige National Award Project is about. So the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Improvement Act was signed in 1987, and it was meant to improve the quality of U.S. businesses in light of increased foreign competition. The key takeaway was that U.S. industries were being overtaken in terms of quality and production by foreign competition. So as a result, and also as a matter of national security, the U.S. government decided to reward companies that improve their manufacturing as well as their goods and services business. Additionally, the act is also based on the Stephen Wilder Technology Innovation Act, which had a similar focus. Um, some of the key attributes of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Improvement Act was that it also actively encouraged people, businesses and institutions to share how they improve the quality of their production as well as their goods and services. All right, so the company that we're discussing is Lockheed Martin um, Mission and Fire Control. It was created in 1999 after a merger between Lockheed and Martin Marietta. Um, their primary user are warfighters, meaning troops in combat or naval ships, aircraft, etc. They have a highly technical workforce with over 60% of the workforce holding a bachelor's degree or higher. Their core competencies are creating innovative technological solutions, cultivating relationships, managing the MFC brand, and developing talent. So their market segments, aeronautics and the defense industry. Some of their major competitors are Raytheon and Boeing, also Northrop Grumman and ATK, which are all major defense contractors and aeronautical companies. Some of their strategic challenges are the DoD acquisition trends, as well as the DoD budget. So, of course, with most government contractors, our largest defense contractors, their a lot of their income is based on whether trends in defense spending. So, perfect example, pre 9/11, um, the military was cutting back. Less ships and submarines were being manufactured. Less systems were being deployed. So there was a lull in defense spending. However, post 9/11, because of the global war on terrorism and several other factors, there was a massive increase. So this dramatically affected the scale and scope of operations for defense contractors. So MFC, which stands for Mission and Fire Control, their HR organizational profile, they basically utilize a human capital framework, and some of the key points of their framework in relation to human resources is to acquire talent, develop talent, engage employees, retain talent and knowledge, and evaluate and improve business performance. The key thing about that is that this is a company that understands how to deploy resources. The key thing is that they utilize um, their personnel based on the needs of the customer, and the customer in this case is the government. So oftentimes they'll recruit from government agencies or from the military or people who worked at these different organizations. So they have a much deeper understanding of the system than other outside entities. So company's leadership focuses on aligning its learning and development system with their strategic plans. They train their employees, leaders, as well as suppliers in Lean Six Sigma at various levels of mastery. And the company focuses on sustaining ethical business practices. Now, this is important. Ethics in particular, mainly because they're dealing with the United States government, but also some of the projects that they work on are highly classified in nature. So being ethical, takes on a dual importance. Additionally, in terms of quality control, utilizing Six Sigma to train employees and leaders as well as suppliers, the key to that, and the reason why the leadership team focuses so much on that attribute is mainly because they're dealing with products that can't fail. They have to be of the highest quality. These are military grade aircraft, missiles, weapon systems, sensors that are used for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, etc. So these are things that have to be um, you know deployed properly. They have to be manufactured to the highest possible quality, and the personnel using those things have to be able to recognize when quality is being sacrificed for any other cause. So the programs that leadership focuses on also create and develop future leaders as well as individual contributors. One of the key points with Lockheed Martin, Mission and Fire Control, is that their entire HR program is really based on putting their people down two paths. One as being either a manager for career progression or focusing on being an individual contributor. And what that means is that if a person fancies themselves to be a leader and they have leadership ability, they can move up through the ranks and become a manager and move through the chain that way. Or if they don't have the desire to lead anyone, they can contribute individually as a higher level engineer or a higher level contributor to the team, providing subject matter expertise on a small scale for specific individual projects without actually having direct reports. Also, MFC focuses on creating career progression and a training pipeline. So, for junior engineers and technicians and all employees, it creates an environment where they can learn and have the tools readily available to be able to make that career progression. Some places they don't necessarily dedicate the resources for employees to move up. MFC is definitely not that company. They definitely do. They definitely provide the resources to make that happen. But also they use systems to support performance management. And the key thing about performance management is that it tracks the progress of the employee. It tracks their all of their evaluations. It tracks the training that they take, and it tracks their progress in terms of their work performance. And this gives the leader a better picture of what their people are doing and how they're operating. So the key thing is too is that you know the company also utilizes systems for performance management, and they monitor and evaluate training. But also it provides valuable feedback. The feedback piece is important because if there's an employee that's underperforming, or if there's an employee that's kind of being pigeonholed into a certain direction, by giving them feedback, they can understand fully how to maneuver themselves in a better direction. In terms of you know getting out of the rut of being an individual contributor and being more on the management side of the house, or improving performance to be recognized for that next promotion. So feedback's also extremely important. So the company, their policy on retention, the company focused significant resources on retention. There was a scale listed in their application summary, which showed a scale of 100 to 1,000, and it showed retention as being at a level 800. So the company, and what that means is that you know that's the score that they've given themselves in terms of engaging employees enough to where they have higher job satisfaction and they want to keep working for the company. But also, a key thing about retention at a lot of major defense contractors is that you know these are highly specialized skills. They're working on systems that aren't necessarily widespread throughout the public. So retaining these employees is also extremely important because like I said before, 60% of the workforce is highly educated, bachelor's degree and above in technical fields. So maintaining a workforce that has the knowledge of how to conduct you know maintenance or engineering services for U.S. Navy warships, or for Army weapon systems, or for certain types of aircraft is extremely important, and it's critical to the company's core business practice. Additionally, um, you know their main focus, strategically speaking, is on the deployment of their human capital. where are they putting people? What types of engineers do they need for future projects? You know, what are they hearing from the customer as a result of the change in the mission or the types of weapon systems that are going to be needed for the next mission. So the leadership team, the strategic planners are always looking at those things and also trying to figure out how to stay ahead in terms of staffing those positions. But another key element about the defense industry is that the relationships are developed over several years. And a lot of these defense contracts, they last 5 to 10 years, and they often renew back to back. So there are companies that have had contracts for roughly 15 to 20 years. So their knowledge of the customer is almost generational at that point. But also they recruit from certain government agencies, or they recruit from the military. So there's a lot of it's a real small community. So a lot of people are already familiar with certain defense contractors as well as certain people. So it's a organizational culture, but it's also a people business. Additionally, MSC focuses on regular face-to-face meetings with the customer, past clients, and future customers in order to ensure that they're meeting those needs, that they're helping the customer flesh out what the potential support needs are. But also the customer works on integrated project teams. The application summary lists that this is a practice that Lockheed Martin, MSC regularly conducts, but also I've seen it personally as a defense contractor, working on several large projects where the customer's there with the team helping design certain attributes of the technology. They're actually there, man on the ground, working with the customer. So that focus on customer relations, that understanding of what the customer needs, is definitely something that I believe that defense contractors have always been pretty proficient at, because they're working on something that can't fail, that shouldn't fail. All right, so measuring progress, the company uses enterprise excellence systems to measure improvements. ES was developed over a 5-year period, and during that time, or specifically the time that the application summary was made, it performed over 5,000 process improvements. Now, these weren't process improvements that were just done dramatically. They were kind of phased in and gradually improved certain aspects. So the number is 5,000, but it could have been 5 or 10 on a particular system. A small change here that improved functionality in one area, a small change that improved functionality in another area. So this feeds into an EDW, like an engineering data warehouse, which feeds other systems in Lockheed Martin. So in conclusion, Lockheed Martin mission, their mission was to support the warfighter. So as a result, their leadership function, these guys really need to be on it. They're in a situation where they have to bring large teams of people together, but also have an overall vision that needs to be sustained and refined constantly. So the quality of their leadership shows in terms of productivity, retention, and outputs, and it shows that they regularly utilize the criteria set forth by the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, as well as the strategic mission planning. So I think the key thing is that if I were to grade their execution of their strategic objectives, I would have to give them A+. I mean, they did a great job, and it shows with the level of retention with their employees, but also the quality of their outputs.